The Cardinals' valuation of Brendan Donovan could reshape their offseason strategy, and Chaim Bloom, he might be outmaneuvering the entire league. We'll break down the high-stakes chess match on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafron, a former national radio sports anchor, born and raised in St. Louis and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And welcome to another episode of Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you to our everydayers for continuing to support us. If you're new, welcome aboard. Hope you enjoyed the content. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you all the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. It's so sad. I can't believe the season is coming to an end. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So on today's show, a few former Cardinals, including Harrison Bader. I know, get your tissues ready. He is not coming to St. Louis. They have found new homes. The newly released top 100 prospect list from MLB Pipeline was released. The Cardinals are well represented there. But we're going to start today with the subject that it has been going on since the offseason began. It continues to go on. What is the future of Cardinals utility man Brendan Donovan? When the offseason got going, we knew what was probably going to happen. We knew some guys were going to be on the move. Well, at least we were hoping, let's be honest, because after nothing happened last offseason as far as trying to get guys to move, Chaim was able to get it done, albeit at a high cost. He moved the contracts of Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras and Nolan Arenado. And in doing so, he brought back some valuable prospects, but also they had to eat a ton of money. But those moves were done out of necessity, right? They wanted to slash payroll. They wanted to give some other guys who were already in the system more chances to play, kind of help kick that reset that the Cardinals are going through, kind of kick it into high gear to, not screwing around anymore. Like, let's go. All right, let's get this show on the road. 3 more players continue to be mentioned as possible deals. Lars Nootbaar, JoJo Romero, and the headliner is Brendan Donovan. And Chaim has been very transparent, which I appreciate, and I think a lot of fans do, about deals involving these guys. But, we've heard more discussion about what's going on with Brendan Donovan more than anybody else, since he's the guy that has the most value. And he's always stated that the Cardinals don't have to trade Brendan Donovan. And when I mentioned moving Donnie at the deadline last year, I remember I brought that up and people were like, what are you thinking? What I'm thinking is who is valuable and who could get the Cardinals the most in return. And Donnie was one of those guys. And I've said the same thing, though, ever since I brought it up last year, that they don't have to trade him. He's not hampering them. He's not an issue. He's not bothering them in any shape or form. Donnie not getting traded doesn't mean that top prospect JJ Wetherholt won't be on the team at some point this season. Donnie isn't blocking people. In fact, his versatility is one of the main reasons why he's so freaking valuable in the first place, because you can move him around. He's a good chess piece to have. Speaking of value, he doesn't drain you on your payroll. $5.8 million this season. Some would argue that he's underpaid considering how useful he is, but he's still the second highest paid guy on the team this year, behind Dustin May and ahead of Lars Nootbaar, who I say is overpaid at $5.25 million. So if you're slashing any more money from this payroll, I'm pointing my fingers, my toes, and anything else I can right there at one Lars Nootbaar. But for all the positions that Donnie can play, plus the reliability and consistency that he offers defensively and offensively, Donnie certainly has earned the paycheck. And it's been well documented how great of a guy Donnie is. If you've ever had any interaction with him in person, or you've seen him go on other podcasts or anything, he's a great guy. Everybody in the clubhouse loves him. The front office, the fans, everyone loves this guy. Chaim Bloom has had nothing but wonderful things to say about him during this whole process. And all of that adds up to what I would deem not a great, but a solid Major League Baseball player who doesn't have a lot of deficiencies. And when you're building a roster, they can't just be superstars at every position. Even the Dodgers have guys that aren't superstars at every position. You need guys like Brendan Donovan. The Dodgers value, another former Cardinal, Tommy Edman, in the same way that Brendan Donovan would be valued on another team's roster. He becomes very important. You got to have guys like him who can move around the diamond, move around in the outfield if you need him to, can bat left-handed. You need these kind of dudes. So you can see why Chaim's stayed very firm on what he thinks the Cardinals should be receiving in return for a team to acquire Brendan Donovan. He's not just going to hand him over. He's clearly got a price tag that he once met. And if you don't get there, then you don't get Brendan Donovan. Simple as that. Now, you can certainly question whether or not playing hardball here is smart or silly. I don't want to say stupid because I don't think it's stupid, but you can question whether or not the Cardinals and Chaim are overvaluing him, and that's why he hasn't been moved yet. And that maybe, hey, Chaim should have jumped on some offers by now. He's not doing this team any good by being what he is on a team that's not ready to contend. But we don't really know what anybody's offered him yet. And, if you switch it around and you think about the other side, like pretend you're one of the GMs on one of these other teams, and you see a team like the Cardinals unloading veterans the way that they have this offseason. I mean, do you blame them for lowballing them to try to pry Donnie away first? I wouldn't. Why wouldn't you lowball and see if you can get away with it? Why wouldn't you test the newly appointed president of baseball operations to see if he's got the testicular fortitude to not bend? And so far, Chaim has stayed the course. And I look at it and it pleases me a little bit that we're not just giving away somebody like Brendan Donovan, the way that you kind of had to give away Nolan Arenado and pay him to go away. Will this end up being a good or bad thing? I don't think Donovan, and this is the thing, keeping Donovan on this roster, I don't see how it's a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. I don't think it hurts Chaim standing with the fan base either, who adore Donnie and certainly would love to keep him. I would love to keep him. I don't know how attached everybody was to Sonny Gray or Wilson or Nolan Arenado. Great guys. Didn't want to see them go away because of something wrong with them personality-wise or anything like that. But you understood those moves. The Brendan Donovan one, though, because you don't have to trade him, you better get something decent in return, considering everything that he can do for you on and off the field. So, you still got Lars Nootbaar still on the team, still mending from heel surgery. I continue to not believe that he's going to be ready for opening day. I could see Brendan Donovan in left field as your starting left fielder to start the season with a combination of Sujasi, Fermin, Gorman, and Wetherholt handling your second base and third base duties. And I don't see an issue with any of that. You've got a couple lefties, you got a couple righties. They're all young. You want to see what all these guys can do. You want to see if they deserve a place at the table. You're going to have an opening to do that. And you just moved Donnie to left field and let him go out there with Victor Scott and then Jordan Walker and then Burley and Wynn. And then, the catching situation with Herrera and Pajes and Crooks. Like, they'll all kind of figure that stuff out themselves. But there you go. I feel like that makes sense. But if you do trade Brendan Donovan, you would still use that same situation. But then you're thinking, all right, well, who's in left field? If Newt's hurt, like, what are we going to do there? And then you're looking at like a Nathan Church or something. And then you're looking, okay, maybe we got to go sign a free agent. But I don't think it kills you to have Brendan Donovan back on this team. You are taking a risk, though, that in your betting that Donovan continues to be good, continues to be healthy. And then perhaps you can revisit the idea of trading him away at the deadline. Maybe his worth goes up. Or as some of people have suggested, do you extend Brendan Donovan and make him one of the few veteran building blocks you still got around and keep him in this clubhouse for the next few seasons? Just, if you're going to do that, don't do a no-trade clause, please. We saw how that worked out. But what are your thoughts? Are the Cardinals missing the boat on a deal right now by being a little too strict of what the return is going to be? Or should they pack it in and just bring Donnie back all together and move forward? What do you guys think? But as Chaim has said, it would be nice to have this wrapped up before spring training, just so you kind of know where all your pieces are going to fit heading into workouts and spring games, which are just a few weeks away. Who do you need to focus on? Like which guys are going to be on there? We're like, all right, this is where we need to put our focus on. Where does everyone need to be playing in the games to get ready for opening day? And, where should they be getting the most work at? Which positions? So a lot of things are up in the air. So you want to get that stuff figured out. And I get it. JJ Wetherholt is one of the guys. And that, obviously is going to get a nice long look in spring training this year. And he and 4 other Cardinal prospects just landed inside the MLB Pipeline Top 100 list. We're going to talk about those guys coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. It is the last call for football. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. Last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. You got the Patriots. You've got the Seahawks. I'm rolling with the Seahawks in this one. They just got a lot going on there. And I feel like New England's road to the Super Bowl hasn't been quite as difficult as maybe it seems. I know they've had to beat some good defenses, but I don't know. That Seattle group, if Darnold plays the way he just did in the NFC Championship game, I don't see how Seattle loses that game. But anyway, whether you're backing their favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for, and this is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff until that final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team, so every day you're doing this, so why not take it up a level and go ad-free? Join the Everydayer Club today. Get Locked On Cardinals with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and you can do it all for just $5 little a month. It's what a coffee costs, and you're going to get it for a whole month, or you can go with the annual at $50 a year. Go to LockedOnSTLCardinals.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, a lot of prospect talk because we are the St. Louis Cardinals right now, and prospects is what we're excited about because the present day is, it's all right. There's some guys to be excited about, but the future is what we're really excited about, how these guys are all going to come together as a core and make the Cardinals a name to be feared in Major League Baseball circles once again. So their top 100 prospect list from MLB Pipeline got dropped on Friday night, and the Cardinals made a nice splash on it with 5 prospects making the cut. The Cardinals are one of 5 orgs with 5 or more prospects on the list. You got the Mariners, who lead the league with 7. Cardinals are trying to see if they can pry some of those guys away, followed by the Mets and the Guardians, who had 6. Then you got Pirates, Dodgers, White Sox, Marlins, and Cardinals with 5. So they're right up there with some of the best farm systems in baseball. St. Louis's list is headlined by, no surprise here, shortstop JJ Wetherholt. Came in at number 5 overall behind the same 4 guys who are ahead of him at the shortstop position. There were 26 shortstops inside the top 100. So a position that's got a lot of talent right now. Connor Griffin of Pittsburgh was number 1. Then it's Kevin McGonigal from Detroit. Jesus Made of Milwaukee. Apparently, I was saying that wrong. I was calling it Made because that's how it's spelled. Made is apparently how it's said. Jesus Made of Milwaukee. And then Leo DeFries from the A's. Now, the write-up about JJ says, looking relaxed and loose in an upright open stance, he enviably combines good plate discipline with an ability to manipulate the barrel and put consistent, strong contact into play. He didn't whiff more than 26% of the time against any pitch type in the upper minors. And while he doesn't reach huge top-end exit velocities, the right mix of angles and generally hard-hit balls helped his power show up in a bigger way at AAA, boosting his already well-known offensive profile. 5'10" infielder moves with above-average speed, and he has been efficient on the base paths as a pro. Wetherholt has been primarily a shortstop since his final season in Morgantown, but the Cardinals moved him to 2nd and 3rd last season, partly to get him exposure to different angles off the bat and partly because his glove won't knock Mason Wynn off the 6. When he gets his feet under him, Wetherholt can exhibit strong throws across the diamond, but he'll need to work on accuracy when on the move. His offensive skills are worth making room for, as he's a potential 300 hitter with 20/20 ability. We know that JJ Wetherholt is special. It's been well documented how important he is to the rebuilding Cardinals in 2026 and beyond. But the Cardinals are also, they've got other guys. They've got 4 more in the top 100. In fact, 2 of them were inside the top 40, with left-handed pitcher Liam Doyle in at number 34. And then you've got Randal Rodriguez in at number 37. We've discussed them already when they were releasing each, like the top 10 of each position with MLB Pipeline. Doyle was number 4 among left-handed pitching prospects. Rodriguez finished number 3 among catchers. So we'll move on from those guys. You can go back to another episode and check out what we had to say about them. But obviously, they've got a lot of talent. Next 2 guys, though, who made the cut: Joshua Baez came in at number 87. And then catcher Leonardo Bernal at number 98. Now, if you've been listening to Locked on Cardinals in the last year, you are well aware of the excitement that myself and many of the fans have surrounding Josh Baez and what he did this past season, where in a combined 2 stops at High A Peoria and Double A Springfield, he rattled off a line of 287 batting average, 20 home runs, 79 RBIs, and 59 stolen bases. Which is all great. It's all great. But the key thing to me about all of this is that he was able to accomplish these things while at the same time diminishing his strikeout totals in a major way, which was certainly a bit of concern for his first couple years in pro ball. They're like, wow, this kid swings and misses a ton. Big dude, 6'3", very muscular. So growing into his body still a little bit and figuring out that swing. He figured something out here in 2025, because what a difference it was. 2024, he strikes out 114 times in 277 at-bats. That's a 39% clip that he was striking out, which is horrendous. Last year, he struck out 103 times, but he did that in 418 at-bats. Move that down to 27%. A whole lot better there. Significant improvement. He also has a 60 grade arm in the outfield, so you can play him in the corners. They did give him some work in center field as well last year to, hey, can you play all 3? Let's figure it out. He's now the only other right-handed hitting outfielder on the Cardinals 40-man roster besides Jordan Walker. So you wish he was already a season at AAA and was somebody maybe who could contribute this year. Maybe he still does. It's a possibility. But he was only a Double-A last year, so I'm not looking to rush anybody. There's really no business for him to come up and sit on the bench. So just everybody take a breath when it comes to Joshua Baez. Let's see him tackle Memphis first before we get overly excited about things. And then you've got Leonardo Bernal at number 98, coming off that minor league Gold Glove award at the toughest position in baseball. Scouting report on him reads that Bernal earns his best grades for the defensive work. He gets the ball out quickly and accurately, showing an aptitude to jump up when he has the time or when he throws it from his knees when needed. Bernal threw out 39.1% of attempted base stealers last season. Eventually, Texas League Speedsters decided we're not going to test him anymore. They stopped testing him. He also draws strong reviews for framing and receiving, combining anticipatory pre-pitch movements with a good eye to steal strikes. And he's no slouch to plate either. Switch hitter, batted .247, 13 dingers, 70 ribbies, 13 stolen bases in 107 games at Double-A Springfield. Scouting report on the offensive side said he shows better bat-to-ball skills across the board as a lefty, but he's got more thump from the right side, trading that off for struggles with soft stuff. His overall 82% in zone and 77% overall contact rates point to someone who could still be average with the hit tool, and his decent exit velocities could get him to 15 to 18 homers at his peak. Exciting stuff. Very exciting stuff. Now, one thing that I'm noticing in the comments section, and I've noticed on X, is that people are like, yeah, this is great, but we're all a little bit like, we're not going to get overly excited about any of this stuff yet. Although I think most of us believe that JJ Wetherholt is the real deal, but we've been burned, haven't we, Cardinal fans? We've been burned. We've noticed that the last 3 major offensive guys that we were told were going to be really, really good players, they have not worked out. They haven't. You know, Ivan Herrera just came up and showed what he had, but before that, it was who? Dylan Carlson. Flop. Nolan Gorman. So far, not what we wanted. Jordan Walker. So far, not what we wanted. And all three of those guys, if you remember, they came up rookie years. All three of them had really good rookie years. And then, poof, it vanished. What happens? What's going on that by the time they get to the pros, like everything was working fine, and then they get there and then it all goes out the window? That's something they're trying to fix. We're hoping that doesn't happen to any of these new prospects that the Cardinals have here in the top 100. So I feel like that's part of the reason why us as fans are like, it's fine, but like I'm pumping the brakes until they get up to the pros that can prove it longer than one year, because we've seen these guys do it for 1 year and then it just goes away. So we'll see if they can fix that, because they Dylan Carlson on the move again, by the way. I'll be talking about him in a little bit, but Gorman and Walker are going to be guys that they rely on this year. They're going to get another year to prove that they belong and that they still have that high ceiling of talent that the Cardinals saw when they drafted these guys, developed these guys. They had big years in the minors, and they had that first big year with the Cardinals, and then it hasn't been what they wanted ever since. So we'll see if they can turn those frowns upside down when it comes to Gorman and Walker this year. No longer on the list, pitchers Quinn Matthews, Tien Kentz, both dealt with injuries last year, need to prove that they could stay healthy before even sniffing the list in 2026. I got more faith in Quinn Matthews bouncing back than Tien Kentz, who still hasn't reached 100 innings in any season since getting drafted in 2020. I don't know what his future holds. I would love to see him just go to the bullpen and become that guy. It just doesn't feel like starter material anymore. But Quinn Matthews, still some hope. Still some hope. I mean, he's a year removed from a monster year in his first pro year when he went through all the minor league stops, went all the way up to AAA, was dominant at every stop until he got to AAA and struggled just a little bit. Minor league pitcher of the year. I mean, come on. You can't tell me all that talent is just out the window. So still some hope there. Some former top prospects like Dylan Carlson have reached deals with other teams. One of them, sadly, Harrison Bader. I know. I told you to get the tissues ready. I'll tell you where he landed next, coming up on Locked On Cardinals. Thanks again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. So for a brief moment, since winter warm-up, there was this glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, the Cardinals could bring back former fan favorite Harrison Bader to the team. People were excited. Chaim Bloom even answered a question by a fan during the Q&A about Harrison Bader. And he responded that, sure, there's a chance that Bader is somebody we'd have interest in because the team has an opening for a right-handed hitting outfielder at the moment. Still do. And the fans waited with bated breath on whether that dream could become a reality. And I tried to warn you that it probably wasn't going to happen. And as I predicted, it did not happen. Harrison Bader has reportedly signed a 2-year deal worth $20.5 million with the San Francisco Giants. This will be his 6th team since the Cardinals traded him at the deadline to the Yankees in 2023. Remember, that was the Jordan Montgomery deal. He had a better than expected offensive season last year, split time with the Twins and the Phillies. That earned him this 2-year deal, which is why I didn't think the Cardinals were going to be able to get him, because I don't think they're interested in 2-year deals for any of these guys. I would say 1 year with an option at best, preferably just 1 year, and we move on. And that is not something Harrison Bader probably wanted to do. As much as it would have been fun to see him back here in a Cardinal uniform, it just didn't seem like it was something that was going to happen. But he fit the profile of what the team needs. And on Sunday with Tom Ackerman on KMOX, Chaim Bloom was on there, and Tom was interviewing him and talking to him about things that have gone on since the winter warm-up. And he talked about, like, hey, so right-handed bat, still looking for one, and I asked him whether, does it need to be a veteran? Do you want younger guys to do it? And, Chaim, very smart answer, was like, well, in a perfect world, you'd like a little bit of both. But he said it doesn't necessarily have to be a veteran, but said you want to make sure you have guys that young players can lean on. But we want to make sure that we're just stacking as much young talent as we can together, because we know that ultimately that group, as it comes together and forms our core, is going to help us win. Continued saying that as the offseason is getting closer to an end, spring training is getting closer and closer, you start to see those markets clarifying. Certainly it feels like the conversations that we have had in the free agent market are at least moving along a little bit. Nothing is imminent for us there, but I do think it's something we'll do at some point. Now, we've continued to bring up names of guys who happen to hit right-handed, can play a little outfield, seem to be, or at least would possibly be, cool with a one-year deal. We brought up Austin Hayes and Miguel Andujar. A lot of people think Andujar is going to command a 2-year deal after his big season. I don't know. But those are the guys that people continue to bring up as fits. But the more I keep looking at it, the more I start to lean towards somebody like former Cardinal Randal Grichuk as a better fit, just because what he's going to command money-wise and what he's probably expecting playing time-wise. Austin Hayes and Miguel Andujar deserve to be starting every day after the seasons they've had. Like, they should want to go somewhere where they're immediately going to be a part of the lineup, not where they're competing for at-bats with a Lars Nootbaar or filling in for a Jordan Walker or something like that. So the more I think about it, the more I'm like, it should be somebody else that's even lesser of that kind of a player than Hayes and Andujar. That Randal Grichuk makes a whole lot of sense, but we'll see. We'll see what he ends up doing. Another former top outfield prospect, Dylan Carlson, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, he is still around. And by the way, Dylan Carlson is still only 27 years old. Can you believe that? That's how young he was when he came up with the team. Remember, he was 21. So reportedly signing a minor league deal. This is not going to make people happy. Minor league deal with a non-roster invite to spring training with the Chicago Cubs. Boo! The guy that made Harrison Bader expendable. He was one of those guys. He made him and Tyler O'Neill expendable back in 2023, is not hanging on, or should I say, is hanging on for dear life to like his major league career. He's trying to stay in the big leagues after dealing with obviously all the injuries that he had with the Cardinals. Went to Tampa Bay in that trade for Sean Armstrong. Goes to Baltimore last year. Hit just 203, 6 home runs, 20 RBIs in 241 plate appearances. And per usual, if you watch the games between the Cardinals and Baltimore last year, you saw it happen. Ended up hitting the Cardinals well. 333, home run, 4 RBIs against them in 12 at-bats. Go figure. The one team that he can hit against is us. The final former prospect I want to bring up is Austin Gomber. Yes, the biggest name in the deal that went to Colorado for Nolan Arenado has found work again, this time with the Texas Rangers organization. Same thing as Carlson, minor league deal, invite to camp. Gomber was actually with the Cubs AAA team at the end of last season when he had a horrible year with Colorado. It was 0-7, 7.49 ERA in 12 appearances. Like, was terrible. Got released in August, signs with the Cubs minor league, the Iowa affiliate. And wasn't bad. 0.47 ERA in 19 innings with them to finish off the year. So Texas is going to kind of take a look at the lefty. We know how valuable lefties can be. See if they could salvage anything from the now 32-year-old Austin Gomber. So there you have it. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio, TikTok, and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Like, subscribe on YouTube. If you never miss an episode, a reminder that Everyday Air Club, it is here for you. It's built for you. Get Locked On ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to LockedOnSTLCardinals.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On MLB with our guy Sully. You're the best fans in baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.